This is the Aces Up Your Sleeve podcast, and we're the aces up your sleeve in relationships, from romantic to workplace, parental to platonic, your relationship with yourself, and everything in between. Let us, two autistic, aspect, kinky therapists, be your secret weapon in neurodivergent life.
And here's your disclaimer. This is not therapy or therapeutic advice, and we're not on the clock. What you'll hear are our thoughts on different topics, what we might do in your shoes, and how we've supported others through similar situations.
Hello and welcome to the Aces Up Your Sleeve podcast. I'm Cade.
And I'm Serena.
And we are your hosts. And we're also pre-recording this, but we are assuming that we might have some new listeners because not only did we do Thrive, I think last weekend on this timeline, we also did our GEMS Neurodiversity Summit earlier in May.
I like on this timeline as if we might be like time travelers.
Yep, you never know.
Yeah, in this singularity.
Yeah. So welcome if you're here and you're new. I hope you'll stick around and hope you'll let us know what you want to hear about. That's the biggest piece, is we love making content for you all that is useful.
Exactly. All right. As my background gets darker because it's nighttime, we are gonna dive into questions. As a friend to asexuals and as an autistic person, okay, interesting. That sometimes is asexual when I'm not hypersexual. Cool. And with a partner that seems to be asexual. How can I be a better ally? Okay, so this is a person who is wanting to be a friend to asexuals that is sometimes asexual when not hypersexual with a partner, or they have a partner who seems to be asexual. How can they be a better ally?
And I will say they gave me demographics because I did ask, is this like somebody who is not asexual? Like, what sort of advice are they hoping for? And so then they gave me more context, which is perfect.
Got you. Okay, cool. Yeah. We are lovers of context here. Please never feel like you're writing too much because we will just edit you down if we need to.
And it helps when you include ways to contact you back in case we do have follow-up questions.
For sure. Absolutely. It sounds like you have a little bit more, have had more time to look at this one and think on it. So what are your immediate thoughts?
I think that there are a lot of ways to be a good ally, accomplice, whatever you want to call it. I've heard people use different terms. Moving away from assuming everybody is allosexual, moving. So instead of like, hey, hooked up with anybody hot lately as like your catch-up question, maybe we don't. Maybe we move away from those types of defaults, and like it doesn't all have to be about sex, or for aromantic folks, it doesn't all have to be about like dating or where the relationship is at. Like maybe we lead with other things. I think that's a good way to start being an ally to your asexual friends, is to like not always drive the conversation to sex and related stuff.
Yeah. I think in general, finding a way to integrate that person's experience into your default understanding of the world.
Yeah.
Like at some point, I think a lot of allyship gets stuck on like, oh, how do I be an ally to this marginalized group of people? Keeping them in okay, but they're this box. And then when they're not around or not represented, or like I'm not thinking about it, it's not top of mind. Like, it doesn't have to be top of mind necessarily, but like something around, okay, but how are you integrating their existence and like the things that they're interested in, the things that they're not interested in, and like whatever it is that makes them unique into your typical world.
I like that because similarly, like with trans stuff, I remember when I made a brand new like queer friend group when I was in my early 20s and was like, I probably need supportive friends who like get this a little deeper than just saying they support me. And the person who invited me knew I was trans. I just wasn't on testosterone or anything yet, so still presenting very femme. And I go to this party, and you would think as like a group of people in the community and allies that they would be like, oh, it's a trans person, so like maybe there are some things we wouldn't do or assume. And they wanted to play like truth or dare, and one of the first dares was like, take my top off. Like for a trans person who like is just now meeting you all, and some trans people would be totally cool and are not like, they don't have dysphoria about that. Would they be like, sure, why not?
But also get to fucking know a person.
Yeah, like within an hour or two of meeting somebody, you're gonna go there. I don't know. So I think similarly for asexual folks, there are some things you could just kind of do at first, and as you get to know the person, like maybe you find out, oh, there's someone who is sometimes hypersexual, so they would appreciate a check-in about like, have they had any like hot partners lately, you know? But as a default, there are some things you can do to be respectful.
Yeah, I also just think like that's one of the parts is like at the end of the day, our society does have this like allosexual like idea of itself, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so there's a lot of like little innuendos and jokes and this and that that like it's hard to necessarily notice because they're so intrinsic, but that actually could go a long way to making someone feel much more comfortable, especially if they're like sex repulsed, asexual, if
Yeah.
they're, all these different things. There's a lot of ways that like, oh, my eyes are up here. That's not a joke that lands with everybody, right? Instead, make literally any other joke.
Yeah. There are plenty of jokes that exist that don't hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Other ways to be an ally too, there are specific organizations for like the betterment of the world and are working in tandem with asexual people or are led by asexual people. We can put some stuff in the show notes. Participate, join the newsletter, do some learning, like know what is impacting those communities, like whoever you want to be an ally for, if it's autistic people as well.
Making sure that you're like listening to asexual voices. Like
Mhm.
there's what is that podcast? You've referenced it before.
The sounds fake but okay one. Yeah.
Yeah, and they also have a book. I know that there is another book called Ace.
By Angela
There's a book
Chen.
on like blackness and asexuality, which my brain is going to forget the name of, and I can't pull up on my phone right now. But like, there's a lot of good ace and aspec content out there. Follow,
Yeah.
engage with it, purchase it. Again, it integrates it into your typical way of being. In the same way, like if you want to be an ally to fat people, follow fat people on social media, listen to
Yeah.
them, like read books about by them and about them, like all of that kind of stuff. That way, it's not like, oh, I never would have thought. Like I remember when I was packing for Scotland and getting ready, and I like showed my friend who travels a lot, Patrick, who's been on the podcast. I showed him my like carry on because it was my carry on completely stuffed, and then my personal item, which is supposed to be tiny and wasn't. It was the same size as the carry on sitting on top. And he was like, "I fucking hope they let you keep that." And I was like, "They have no choice. They're going to separate these things from me at their own peril because it was every item of clothing that I needed for the trip." Because I don't have an option to lose my clothes. They don't make my size
Yeah.
in Scotland. Fuck off. Like, it doesn't matter if they'll give me a voucher to buy clothes. They don't have it. Greece, absolutely not. There are no clothes my size on Crete except for the shit that I brought with me. So,
Gosh.
like, you don't know that that's an issue if you're not
Mhm.
engaged in fat content. You don't necessarily think of all of the different ways that asexuality presents if you're not engaged with multiple different asexual creators and content and things like that. And so I think that like it can help you really really functionally normalize if you can just read the books, listen to the podcast, watch the shows, watch the YouTubes, whatever. God, I sounded 80 when I said that, but like that's a lot of it.
And similarly for the autistic community, I can't quite tell if they're asking in that regard as well, but go and check the news. Look up what's going on for autistic people. Read some articles by autistic people. Join some Substacks. There's lots of great ones out there. And I like what you're saying about integrating it into your worldview, because especially if somebody has a very different experience than you do, it's not really top of mind. Sometimes you don't even know, oh, someone is like experiencing the world through this very different lens.
That thing that went around a long time ago was like you don't realize that some people white standing up until you learn, or like you don't realize that some people white
Yeah.
sitting down until you like that, because it's not a typical topic of conversation. We all just are doing what we're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't learn there's another way. And so you learn that there's another way by talking to somebody. And that, I think, is that like really clear depiction of like, you don't know what you don't know. And that's fine.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people, when they want to be a good community member, turn around to like, oh my God, I don't know what I don't know. And so, fuck, like, I'm an awful person because I don't know. And it's like, no, 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 just, you're right. You don't know what you don't know. What you can do with that is learn. And you
Yeah.
can listen to the people who do know what you don't know. And you can, like, people are making content about marginalized identities that they hold all the time because we recognize there is no one else who's going to do it well.
Yeah.
And people don't have an incentive to seek out this information a lot. And so there are all types of content. If you are an audio person, there are podcasts. Hello. If you are like physical eyeball book reading, there are books. If you are a TV watcher, YouTube watcher, Twitch watcher, like that shit exists everywhere.
Yeah. So maybe mindfully searching up some terms and looking into identities you don't already follow, whether that's asexual folks, autistic people, or anyone
Black
really,
people, fat
Yeah.
people, yeah.
Yeah. I hope
Absolutely.
that helps. I mean, the other thing I would say is like support and go to asexual events
Mm,
and autistic
yeah.
events, support the people who are trying to get out there. Same with like fat folks. We had like a Seattle fat mall, and a lot of it is closing because they just didn't get enough support, because
No,
when the
that's so
only
cool.
people I know, it's like, but when you're only getting funds from one community instead of the community at large, makes it really hard to be successful, and that's going to reduce a lot of accessibility for clothing in that area.
Yeah. I'll also just kind of close out to say I never think it's a bad thing to come with curiosity. Again, you're not going to know what you don't know, but also like show up. And when somebody says, oh no, that's not right, or that's not how I feel, or that's not whatever, instead of getting like defensive and like, oh my God, I fucked up. And no, I couldn't have fucked up. I'm a good person. I'm an ally. Be like, oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me integrate that into my like knowledge system. Think on your questions before you ask them. Maybe do a little digging, hit the Google minus AI, and then if you still have things, you can come back and say, hey, this is what my like searches have got me. Could you point me in any other relevant directions?
Yeah. Absolutely. Staying up to date and educated, especially from folks with lived experience, can
Mm-hmm.
never hurt.
I also think it's important, especially when you're not part of a group, to follow multiple people with different perspectives from that group.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because no group is a monolith. And if you only are willing to listen to some of them, then you are genuinely still making judgment calls on like, well, then that person is not qualified to speak on their own experience. And that's a problem.
It still shows that bias of like, well, these are the only like good enough ones to follow,
Worthwhile.
or
You're the good
yeah,
ones. You're the, mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I follow creators who share identities with me who are very different to me, and I like it. I love seeing other perspectives and making sure that I'm not that when I speak about trans issues, for example, that I'm not just representing people that are similar to me. I can
Yeah.
like give a broader, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's important. It's hard. It takes a lot of like, you got to do your inner work about it. But it's really important if you can do it.
Yeah. Well, we also had some more myths to talk about, so
Mythbusters.
we covered quite a bit on our other episode, but for this one of the things we didn't get to touch on really was special interests.
Mm.
And the myth there is that it's like once a special interest, always a special interest, and it's going to be a very specific thing or multiple very specific things. Do you find that to be true?
Oh, I'm way too ADHD for that. Like, I'm definitely an ADHD forward ADHD. I almost, as much as I've been fighting with people online this week about, needing special little fancy terms to differentiate the good neurodivergence and the not good neurodivergence. I almost sometimes want a term that's like AD autistic or something, like something that shows like
Uh,
my ADHD actually comes first. Like a lot of my autistic traits come when I'm really stressed. My ADHD traits tend to be what comes much more like when I'm in
just
just every
yeah,
day. Yeah, my special interests have always been cyclical, first of all. So I tend to cycle through domains. So it'll be like makeup, and then kind of like fashion and hair and video games, crafts, like TV shows,
Mhm.
books, podcasts. It'll kind of cycle through whatever is taking up most of my focus and time and like brain space. And then it will be like deep dives into each one of those. So like in video games, it might be like, oh, I'm really into Disney Dreamlight Valley, or oh, I'm really into Fortnite, or oh, I'm really into Marvel Rivals. Each one of those might
Yeah.
hit once each per cycle of video game. You know what I mean? So it's a lot less that like stable, and I think
Yeah.
that's mostly to do with ADHD.
It's also not as specific as the myth would have us believe, because it's not as if all the games you just listed are the same exact. Like Fortnite and Dreamlight Valley, not the same exact category.
Not at all. Even like Fortnite and Marvel Rivals are like pretty different.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's part of the myth, is that whatever it is, it's going to be all the same. If it's animals, then it's like every animal ever. If it's reptiles, it's every single reptile. Or you have to niche down and pick only one reptile,
Mm-hmm.
only one animal. But that's just not how it shows up. Yeah.
Yeah. What about yours?
Yeah, they cycle too. And I would say if you're ADHD forward, I'm autistic forward. On the bonus content, the other time we were talking about stereotypes, I talked about that hamster website. That was like a
Mm-hmm.
year or less. That wasn't like, oh, the hamsters are my thing for forever. It cycles, through the different like animals in that example, or social stuff, psychology, like
Mm-hmm.
want to learn everything there is to know about this certain aspect, and then now this one, and certain celebrities, like it bounces around a lot.
I've always felt a little bit almost ashamed. Oh, my special interest doesn't really go into like, I know every single fact
Yeah.
about this thing. I definitely would identify as having a special interest in like mental health and
Oh, yeah.
systems and social systems and things like that. They have always been interesting to me. I have 2 degrees in them. I have a career in them, but also I do less like my last cycle of book interest was very heavy on social justice and that kind of stuff. um, but like the cycle before that was all fantasy.
Oh, yeah.
And right now I'm like not like I've like DNF'd like 5 books this year. I'm just like in a downswing. But it's hard because it's like my career. When I'm done with work, I don't always want to like keep doing work related things.
Yeah.
Sometimes when it happens to click into that, but I found much more commonly now that this is my job that it's not something that I spend hours and hours like in between. Like, I mean, it's 2 jobs. Like I have 2 different
Yeah.
jobs focused on this. It's a lot of my life, and I like that. I like talking about it all the time, but I get a lot of that out at work.
So then you need the space for the other special interests to get some love as well and some time.
So,
I feel that too. And it really has to be something specific to spark. Like, usually I'm very into horror films.
hmm.
And I don't know if it's just possibly that nothing can top Sinners, but ever since I watched that, I cannot get through an entire other horror film. Like, I try, they just are not. I don't know. I watched the one about the dog recently, and that was good. I bet it would have been even more great if I was still in the full swing of like a horror movie special interest, but I think the cycling is pretty typical, way more typical than the diagnostic criteria would have us believe.
I think too, like Patrick is just posting about grief, um,
Yeah.
like in general, and that was one of the things he talked about in his post was like the grief of like when a special interest wanes, and that is something that I think we don't talk enough about because there is this person like, well, if it wanes, then it's not your special interest. That's what fuck it is. Like, I've seen West Wing 13 times,
Wow. Yeah.
4 all the way through, but like the first like 4 seasons, all 14 times. Um, I one time watched Rent 3 times in a row in one night, back to back.
Wow.
And so I watched it, and then I watched the director's cut and commentary, and then I watched it again, without the commentary. You can't tell me that's not a special interest, even if I'm like less in on musicals right this second.
No. Yeah. That absolutely counts.
Right.
And I think the community knows that that counts. It's just some of the professionals still don't realize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That it's like, oh, well, because you have varied interests, even though all of those are very like these have been my lifelong interests since like childhood.
Yeah.
has been this cycle of thing, right? I don't get more differentiation in the cycle, but yes, the cycle is varied, and it is a
Yeah.
cycle. I definitely, I'm, self-identified, but I'm guessing that in a diagnostic assessment, like, that'd be a strike against me.
Especially by someone who doesn't know what they're
Yeah.
someone
Oh
who's
yeah,
not
yeah.
neuroaffirming, we'll
I'm
call it
thinking
that.
like an
Yeah.
unreasonable assessor. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that they'd probably go, oh yeah, ADHD hyperfixations, because they're all different and they're short-lived. Yeah.
Right. But they're not so short lived. Like, it'll be months.
Yeah.
It'll be a year. It'll be, a few weeks. It'll be like it's varied. And I think that's what gets hard is like, okay, yeah, like short lived. Short lived is, you know, I painted for a week.
Yeah.
That difference is like, yeah, I had all my paint stuff out and I wasn't ready to put stuff away. So like every once in a while I would just pick stuff up and start painting.
Yeah.
But I didn't like, you know, and I have a bunch of paint stuff because crafts is one of my cycles.
Collecting the supplies is so fun. I have so many supplies. Yeah.
Look at my shelf. My
If it
glorious shelf.
if it wouldn't unplug everything, I'd tilt like all the resin making supplies and
Oh,
keychain
yes.
stuff I've got over in that corner, all the yarn and crochet and embroidery, like so many supplies, so little
Mm-hmm.
time and energy to actually do the crafts.
So little time and energy to get out all the things and then do it and then clean it
Put it
up.
away. Yeah. No.
Hell no.
No.
Hell no.
Another myth on our list is the broader autistic phenotype. Do you know what that's in reference to? Have you heard that term
Do I
in
look
clinical?
autistic?
What?
Do I look autistic?
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that
I mean, I
code?
would. Yeah. Some people might say, though, that you just have autistic traits and you're not autistic and you're part of the broader autistic phenotype. So, this is in reference for our listeners. This is in reference to people who, on paper, qualify for a diagnosis, but because they have a partner or a kid or hold down a job or made eye contact long enough with the assessor or have a personality disorder or have some other reason that they just can't possibly be autistic, you might be lumped in as being on the broader autistic or having the broader autistic phenotype, but not actually being autistic. And this is really a myth. If
It's
we look at,
wild. Hey, man,
yeah,
you seem way too autistic to not acknowledge it, but we don't
we're
want
not
to.
gonna, yeah,
No, thank
it's
you.
almost like they're replacing Asperger's with another phrase that's not a
Mm.
Nazi's name, you know? Yeah, they're like, you
But
know
still
what?
an awful, like, because it does also slide back in with, like, the autistic look, where, like, that you can,
Yeah,
like, tell someone's autistic and, like,
yeah. Yeah, and usually those conversations do go down that slippery slope, and it ends up in a supremacy thing of like, well, I'm not autistic, I'm not disabled, I'm not whatever they think that means.
yeah,
I'm part of the broader autistic phenotype, and that's why my kid's autistic. Yeah.
okay,
So
yeah.
that is a myth for anybody listening, and if you've been told that that is what you have or what you are or what you're part of,
It's not even a die. Like, I don't
yeah,
understand how or why anyone would use it functionally. Like, this is the thing I keep running into in general recently is like, explain to me the functionality of this term. Like, how are you using it in praxis? What does it show up as? What?
how it shows up is ableism, really. Like, if we want to go there, like, that is what this is for. Yeah, basically, subclinically, you're autistic, so we're not going to call you autistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It, yeah.
Which
It's just
leads us to
annoying.
talking about the other myth of female autism.
Oh, just for
Yeah.
me?
This one's for you. This one's for anybody assigned female at birth, but it's not for anyone who wasn't. So even if you are soft and sensitive and enjoyed being with horses and learning about horses and whatever else that is under that like female autism stereotype list, if you're not female or were not assigned female at birth, then suddenly it doesn't count and this is something else for you.
Wait, so it's trans exclusionary?
Yeah, because they
autism
don't want to.
shit?
Some people might lump trans women in. They might say, "Okay, yeah, of course you've got female autism because you're a trans woman, sure."
But you just said
But
about people who were not assigned female at birth.
yeah, because some of them wouldn't. Some of them would not allow that. So some
And
of
then would
yeah,
the people who lump trans women in also lump trans men in because they were assigned?
yeah.
So that's everyone. Like that.
I
I
mean,
mean, it's
except for
everyone but non-binaries
yes,
who
cis
were gay
men and
men.
some non-binary. Yeah, some people would be left out, and some people would also say like trans men can't have this because it again, it's like this is just made up because do you know
That's the
how many cis autistic men I know who are very sensitive or empathetic or what are the other like head stuck in a book as a kid instead of being the like
fucking Patrick.
yeah,
He read
yeah.
The Lord of the Rings like fucking 100 times in fucking middle school or something.
Yep. I mean, what it's trying to say is you were able to mask as a kid and you didn't get diagnosed, and these traits we're going to say are related to women because women are less likely to get diagnosed. But that's not true. I know plenty of autistic women who were diagnosed when they were younger, but then we get into what they call the extreme male brain theory. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That one I have not heard.
I forget who created it, and it's worth a Google. Let me just male
Yeah,
brain
hit the
autism.
Google
Yeah.
about it while I pontificate about how much I just fucking hate. Like,
Okay.
I'm really tired of this, like, we need to find ways to section off and section off and section off more instead of just living in the reality that each individual human is an individual person and is interconnected to everybody else and has similarities and differences with each other individual human being on the fucking planet.
But people want to categorize and be really weird and gendered and really prejudicial, really, is what this is.
Yeah.
I should have known. I didn't need to Google it. I should have known this. It's by Simon Baron Cohen, if you've heard of him. He's a researcher who does, in my opinion, trash research.
Yeah.
Extreme male brain, which is a theory that he proposed, is an exaggeration of the typical male cognitive traits, high systemizing, analyzing and building systems, and low empathizing. It suggests autism, regardless of the person's sex, is linked to a masculinized brain. He also posits that perhaps autistic people are more likely to have higher levels of testosterone, which is interesting because a lot of autistic folks do have like PCOS, which sometimes has higher levels of testosterone, but there's also plenty of autistic people who have low testosterone. And there's plenty of intersex autistic people who have all different types of testosterone levels.
Hmm.
But this guy is basically saying male brain good, exaggeration of male brain might not be so good, but autistic people have that, and so therefore autistic people have extreme male brains.
I just looked up this bitch.
I've never seen him.
Oh, I don't say that. Apparently he wrote a book called The Science of Evil on Empathy and the Origins of Cruelty, which Google Books, or Goodreads, excuse me, has an overview, which is a groundbreaking and challenging examination of social, cognitive, neurological, and biological roots of psychopathy, cruelty, and evil, borderline personality disorder,
Oh,
autism, narcissism, and psychosis. All of these syndromes have one thing in common: lack of empathy. So, hey, autistics, you're lumped in with me now, friends. Come join the dark side.
yeah. Yeah,
Good
I mean,
fucking
all of
God.
his.
What a fucking worthless read.
Yeah. He's, he's interesting. He's also been interviewed by Jordan Peterson, if you know who that is. I shouldn't even utter his name on our podcast, but awful.
Fucking
And every time I see Simon Baron Cohen's name, I want to say Sacha Baron Cohen. And as I was
yes.
looking
Okay,
up,
so for a second you said it, and I was like, is that the fucking actor?
it's
That's like an
Borat.
actor or something, right?
No, but apparently, if
That's why I went
Google
and
is
looked it
not
up.
lying to me, he is related to Borat. They're like
I mean, that would
cousins.
make sense. It'd be weird if there were two bitches walking
Other
around the
Baron
same.
Cohens.
Right, like.
But that's also a myth for everyone listening. So if you've been told you have an extreme male brain or female autism, it's just people categorizing autistic traits and trying to gender it needlessly.
I mean, at some point, I'll be so interested. So, like, you know how we understand that like race science is bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And that like there are differences in the experiences of different races, but a lot of them are environmental and things like that. I'll be so interested what happens when we finally accept that like gender science is also like that whole like, oh, male brain, female brain, like this and that and the third. Like,
I'm with you there.
yeah.
Well, we're going to go over to our Patreon bonus content and probably talk more about stereotypes. I know we're going to talk a little about like picky eating and some food related stuff because that's another
It's the
stereotype
wild
question.
card episode.
You're getting a little of everything. You can expect new episodes weekly on Tuesdays from us. You can catch our videos on YouTube that we've got now. You can find me over at Cryptid Learns and Sabrina at Radical Insights Consulting on Facebook or Instagram. Add a .com at the end of either of those for our websites. You can follow the podcast on Facebook or Instagram at Aces Up Your Sleeve Pod. That way you can interact with us and see when new episodes release. If you've got any questions for us, you can go over to neurokink.org/AUYS and send them to us. We're going to go over to Patreon. If you've already signed up for a paid tier, you'll have your own private stream where you can listen to the bonus content. If not, our tiers start as low as $4 over at patreon.com/Aces Up Your Sleeve Podcast. Also, we do have an event coming up later in June if any therapists are listening who want to learn about kink and healing the inner child. So you can go to cryptidlearns.com and check out the courses page to sign up for that or for the recording.
Woo.
All right, see y'all over on Patreon.
Bye.